Well. Hello, everybody. Welcome in to another installment of Nebraska Football, the voice of college football, Huskers Live. And we got a lot of drama to talk about today. You know, big story in the news. Scott Frost can't stop talking about his ex, which would be us. So still talking like the scorned ex-girlfriend. So we'll dive into that and also give some updates on some other stuff. So, Brian, first off, looking very dapper today. I want everybody in the comments to just go ahead and talk about how he makes me look right now. I'm in a tank top. Pitt Snipe's going to make fun of it because I got a sleeveless shirt. Sorry, I just got done with training, so I wanted to put on something a little cooler. It's 100 and some odd degrees out here. And then Brian makes me look bad with the suit. So, Brian, do you want to let the people know why you have that on? Do you want to let people know?
I literally 2 minutes before this show started, I was in an interview for a job in Texas, so I have to look sharp, look nice, shave the face, look presentable, and then literally exit out of the interview, jumped into here, and now we're rocking and rolling, ready to talk about Scott Frost being a prima donna.
It's a hard-working man we got over there on the other side. So y'all like the video for Brian's hard work. Appreciate that, man. Another thing, too, I will not be able to make the Michigan game as originally anticipated. So I have a fight in September or October, November-ish, so I won't be able to make it out there. Coach said I can't fight if I come out there. So that's unfortunate, but I'll try to make a later game. Maybe I'll try to make the Iowa game. I think that's what I might shoot for, but it's a little cold. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Your boy's not built for the cold.
It'll be all right.
Especially after being out here. Let's get into some of the comments. Bone left corn fed. I'm cheating first. Hey, bro, listen, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, bro. The rules are meant to be broken. Don't ask, it's better to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. So we'll count it. Good than stat on Nebraska Scotch Frost. Take your family in Wood River with you. Back in town the other day. What's up, Mike? Jokes on Frost. He had every opportunity to say no. Yep. I hope we play UCF at some point and just clobber them. Maybe Justin is flooded out. Not here. Frost gave us the worst 5 years in Husker history. Yes, I agree. And I'm going to dive into that a little bit because I kind of put a lot of kind of thought into this and kind of broke it down, with his tenure there and comparisons of some things to Matt Rule in terms of how he's handled, with these comments and where he's, doing himself a disservice while thinking he's helping himself by making these comments, So go ahead and give me your, kind of overarching thoughts on his quotes. Were you able to see kind of all what he said? And for those that don't know,
I saw enough.
let me just
pull it up real quick too.
Yeah, let me pull it up just so that way everybody can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about here. So I'm going to share my screen here.
But like the people in the comments are saying right now too, like he could have said no. Like no one made you come here, and I don't care how often you thought this isn't the right thing or everyone was pulling me in that direction. Man, you're a grown-ass man. You did not have to come here. And quite frankly, he wasn't even in my top 10 of coaches I wanted at Nebraska when that job came open. So I wasn't mad that Nebraska hired him, but he just had no success other than 1 year that made me feel really confident about him at Nebraska personally.
I personally, I thought I liked the hire, but it was because I thought that's what we needed, because we were so disconnected. I think for me, it was the way the coaching hires had been. Bill Callahan was completely away from what Nebraska was, right? Completely turned that into a West Coast offense. And then you go through and, you get Pelini and have some good years under Pelini. There's a little bit of my identity there, some toughness. Just couldn't beat the top teams, And then, but then we go to Mike Riley, which everybody questioned. And so, I felt like the coaching hiring was so disconnected from what the fan base felt we needed that, I think we all bought into the fact that, the timing was too perfect and that this was, destiny almost. And so, that was my thing on it. It was okay, somebody who knows Nebraska, and I think it was a lot of our take on it. Somebody who knows Nebraska and can kind of bring Nebraska to what it was in terms of its culture and some normalcy compared to what we had the last however many years, many years.
Yeah. And even though he wasn't in my top coaches I wanted, he was still someone that you're like, man, he's an alumni. He led us to greatness. You obviously, no one was rooting actively for his demise at Nebraska. Yes. And if you were, more power to you, I guess. I think he wanted it desperately. We wanted it desperately, and it didn't work. But when he said, don't take the wrong job, or it was the wrong job, I can't buy that. Mm-mm. Nebraska built you, or was going to build you, a $150 million+ facility for you to recruit with. They gave you 1890, and ABM gave you tons of NIL. Was O'Shawn Mathis great at Nebraska? No, but Nebraska paid him a ton of money. Trey Palmer, Casey Thompson, they gave you everything you needed to be successful. Okay, you went out and got Mickey Joseph, ace recruiter, proven champion at LSU. You went out and got Bill Bush. Okay, you had a pretty damn good coaching staff. And quite honestly, it was his failure more than anybody else's about why this did not work, because there was multiple coaches who had won at previous stops at an incredibly high level, and they all failed with you as a result of your actions and your leadership.
And this is just to prove that I was a Scott Frost fan. I made the first time I ever saw snow when I went home back to Texas, I made Scott Frosty the snowman. So that didn't work out, but Scott Frosty lived. Scott Frosty the snowman might have lived a longer life than Scott Frost did in Nebraska. To be honest, I actually had to put it in my freezer. That's because all the snow would hit the ground and melt, so I had to put it in my freezer. That was the biggest one I can make.
But I still have the shirt that says Frost warning.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of people have that shirt. Probably Goodwill now.
It's a good shirt.
So let's just go over this just a little bit. So as Tuesday at Big 12 Media Days, what he learned from his humbling tenure with the Huskers, Frost offered a deflection rather than reflection. Don't take the wrong job, Frost said via Athletics Chris Panini. Let's see. It's telling Mark continues favor excuses over accountability. Right. Yep. Let's see. I didn't read through this article first, so let me see where the rest of the quotes are. Sorry for some lady in her shower commercial. The circumstance. So he said, I wouldn't leave UCF unless it's someplace you could win a national championship. Frost said, according to Vanini. I got tugged in a direction to try to help my alma mater and didn't really want to do it. It wasn't a good move. I'm lucky to get back to a place where I was a lot happier. Let's see. No,
good for you. Now stop talking about us.
Yep. And let me see if there's anything outside of that. No, I think that was about the gist of. There were some more comments, but here's kind of the way that we kind of go back and forth, and you can tell me what you think about this. But the first thing is, like they talked about, it's like 5 years of losing games, blown leads, meltdowns, and he's playing the victim still. So I wanted to kind of go over the real reason, like Nebraska failed under Scott Frost, and it wasn't bad luck, it wasn't the fans, it wasn't the players, it was him. The leadership, it was him. And talking about let's talk about the coaching, the culture, the lies, and why Nebraska's kind of still in recovery from that. Like, he didn't just mess it up, he left it worse than when he got here. So when he first got here in 2018, he said he was saying things along the lines of, we've got to teach them how to win. And he immediately kind of set the tone, when he was talking about of us versus them. Like the current players there, he made comments about how it was almost like, these aren't my guys. Like, it was beneath him, in a way. And like he was walking into just a disaster, and everyone just trust me, guys, that type of thing. And anytime that something went wrong, though, he pointed fingers, whether it be at the players, at execution, at quote unquote bad breaks. Of course, he said after the 3-9 season, we're the best 3-9 team in the country. And, we all said that jokingly, but for somebody to legitimately say that, a head coach, because he was, that's not leadership. Like, that's creating a delusion to try to play off what was an obvious joke. So, he created a culture of excuses and didn't create a culture of execution. And that bleeds over to everything, man. All we heard in post-game press conferences was, we're close, right? For 5 years, we heard one play away,
Best practice ever.
Every best practice ever, every single week after blowing leads, losing to teams like Purdue, stuff like that. Another aspect of it too, like, he hired all his friends. He didn't go after the best guys for the job. He hired his buddies. You had, Zach Duval, who was supposed to make us bigger, stronger, and faster, but we were constantly injured, gassed out in the fourth quarter, slow. You had Chenander on defense, bend, don't break nonsense. It broke a lot. Took him, 3 years to actually field a competent defensive unit. And that was kind of only after Frost kind of got out of the way and the defense kind of carried the team. On offense, it went through O-line coaches, wide receiver coaches, brought an analyst just to fix special teams, and like none of it worked. Brings in Mark Whipple to call plays. Systems didn't match at all. And you could see it immediately on the sideline. Like, Scott Frost and him, like, basically who's going to call the plays, changing it mid game. Scott Frost gives them the reins for a little bit, takes it right back. Now I'm calling plays. So there was, you have coaches that you're bringing on that you don't even vibe with well. And then the other ones are your friends that aren't cut out for the job. And like, speaking of the offense, like, the offense was his baby, but it never made sense. The up-tempo UCF system to the Big Ten, thought it would work, said they're going to have to adapt to us. But when he realized that wasn't the case, he never adapted. And that was because I don't think he could. I think he only knew that one style of football. But he ignored the run. It was all QB draws, bubble screens, no finishing drives. Constantly ranked at the bottom of the college football world in red zone efficiency, time possession, turnover margin. And then there's an old quote where he says, we have a better chance of scoring from the 40 than the red zone. Like, what kind of coach comes out and says that?
A grossly incompetent one.
Yeah. And
what drives me nuts is like, what drives me nuts is like, it's been, 3 years now? Like, no one gives a shit anymore. Like, we've moved on. And the only reason we keep talking about you, Frost, is because of what you say.
Yeah.
Like, just leave, man. Move on. It's like that clingy ex-girlfriend. And if I'm a parent of a recruit and I'm saying, you're going to teach my son accountability, you're going to teach him all these things, but yet here you are blaming everyone else for your screw-ups for however long he was Nebraska's coach. How can you sit there and teach my son accountability when you yourself are not taking accountability?
And we talk about how much of a missed opportunity it was with Adrian Martinez's talent. He stuck with him for 4 straight years with no quarterback competition, really. No backup third string or anything backup development, no development of those guys. And Martinez, super talented, but turnover prone and regressed each season because he didn't have that push and the proper coaching. He was, I think he was almost overcoached into being indecisive. And when he left, then we move on to Casey Thompson, but he didn't change the system at all to complement Casey's skill set. He threw him out there with the same kind of offense. And the whole Trey Palmer is down there somewhere. That was kind of what it was. That's why Nebraska,
exactly what it was.
Yeah, we could move the ball between the 20s, but like whenever it wasn't a deep ball to Trey Palmer, we didn't know what to do. And then of course the clock management coaching meltdowns, onside kick versus Northwestern, always outcoached, burned his timeouts early, took delay of game penalties on like key downs, late subs, led the Big Ten in penalty yards, blew leads, double-digit leads, fourth quarter collapses, no discipline, no killer instinct. That's all coaching, man. That's all coaching. And then
he said something today that was like about a bad decision or whatever. And I was like, what's a bad decision is kicking an onside kick up 2 scores in the third quarter.
Yep. Actually, it was coming out of half, wasn't
it? They had just scored to go up 2, and his thought process was, we've got him by the throat. Now let's step on it. Maybe if it's like late fourth quarter, but there's not a quarter and a half left to play. Regardless, I think that decision made no sense. Doesn't matter what time of the game it is.
It's the opener. You're working on execution of your offense and defense. Don't come out and try an onside kick week 1. You know what I'm saying? And contrast it to Matt Rule and how he handled being fired from Carolina and the different, like, I looked into some of what he said about, his time with Carolina and being fired. He didn't make excuses, didn't try to revisionist history with this stuff. He said, I didn't win enough games, and that's on me. Like, he owned it publicly, immediately. He went on podcasts, other shows to explain what went wrong, what he learned, and how he was going to be better. And when he got to Nebraska, praised the fan base, praised the opportunity. He respected the job. And I think that's what Frost didn't do. And then you got Frost coming back, says he didn't want the job in the first place. Like, you wanted it when you were parading around in front of a packed room of old Husker, legends in a packed stadium talking about how there's no place like Nebraska. It's just weak, and it's UCF is in for a bad situation with him. So, he didn't just lose game. He set the program back. The portal was a mess. Development was pipeline was terrible. The walk-on culture at Nebraska, prided itself on was gutted completely. He brought in raw athletes, no structure, and when it didn't work, he just kind of blamed everybody else. Recruiting momentum tanked. The fan base was kind of split after a while, and even after he was gone, it's still trying to get the stench out of the locker room of him. And Matt Rule kind of walked into a situation that looked probably better on paper than it felt in reality. So when people talk about Nebraska, still rebuilding, that's why. Frost didn't lose. He left a loser's mindset in the program. So,
yep. And also too, when you compare like the failures of say Bill Callahan to Scott Frost, Bill Callahan was a crappy head coach, but left a very full cupboard. Yes. Whereas Frost left nothing. I mean, there was a handful of guys that were pretty solid, but Callahan left a absolutely loaded recruiting class for Bo Pelini, and that sprung Nebraska back to 8, 9, 10 wins. And then ironically, Bo, when he left it pretty bare, and then it was a slow progression down, and then Scott just completely ruined it.
100%. And Callahan too, in his defense to an extent, he didn't have the players for a West Coast offense. He didn't. It was just kind of the hire didn't make sense because of that. Nebraska was just built on running the ball, and at that time, and we could blame Peterson for that, honestly. Let's be honest. Peterson deserves just as much of the blame as anybody. Hope he play UCF at some point and just clobber them. Let's see. Frost could have said no. Dang, Brian dressed in a suit. Yes, sir. How do you think it went?
At an interview.
Did it go well?
I think it went pretty good.
That means it was terrible.
I don't know if it's a job I would take right now. It's a substantial pay cut for me. And at the end, when we were negotiating pay, they're like, we could do a bonus structure for you. I'm like, no, I need
never operate on bonus structures.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm moving 20 or no, probably 12 hours away. I can't have a job where half my income is based on bonuses that I don't know what they're going to be.
Exactly. What's up, boys? Fuck Scott Frost. Hope the interview went well. He did it for the money, nothing else. Frost of all people, what a jerk, shitty person, head coach. Agreed. He's just ruining his entire legacy at Nebraska. If he would have just got fired and left it alone and took the high road, we probably would have come around on him and been like, listen, we appreciate what he did as a player. It wasn't a good fit with him as a coach. But if he had talked about us in a way that's, that acts like it's a school that he loves and, actually won national championships at, and then we'd again, the history would be different. We'd probably respect him a little bit. We'd remember, of course, the failure, but at the end of the day, he was still, what he did as a player was important,
Well, think about when Riley got fired too. He had a post-firing press conference, and then that was it. And Mike Riley was a disaster, but he's someone we still look at as, super nice guy, great guy, would love to, have a beer with him or whatever.
Just a horrible fit.
Not a big deal.
Just a horrible fit. Horrible hire. And it's not his fault that he got hired here. Not his, we're blaming the wrong person. He just took the job because of his money. My dudes, what's up, Ron T? Nobody cares what Scott Frost has to say. Well, he keeps opening his mouth, and that's, I'm telling you, a lot of people care, because this is, you open Twitter, you see nothing but this everywhere. On 3, CBS, Nebraska fans, it's everywhere right now. I'm pretty sure the Frost hire is the reason Matt Davison and Bill Moose both left. Might have been. He walked away a millionaire. Yeah, well, but he also could have walked away more of a millionaire if he would have done a good job coaching. That was the point. He could have made more money if he wasn't a complete disaster. Frost ran his mouth when he shouldn't have right from the start when he said the Big Ten would have to adapt. And you could see it in his face just after, in the post games. Like, he just looked like he was exhausted and didn't know what to do. Like, it was like he didn't have answers, and it's like he knew that. He just looked exhausted at every post game press. Kind of like we were exhausted too, but it's like we always wanted answers. But I don't know if you were like me. I stopped watching the post game press conferences because it was the same shit every single time. It was like,
it gets pretty exhausting.
Yeah, the answers were the same. And just firing.
That's always the best week of practice.
Yes, it was a great week of practice. Gotta love that one. Oh my gosh. He had them bigger, that's for sure. Definitely not faster. They weren't even doing squats with oh my God, Duval. They weren't even doing squats. Like, so he relied on like pure athleticism over really kind of developing these guys. Like, he was just trying to get athletes and put them out on the field. He said we needed to play more Indiana's. I almost thought that said Indians. Indiana's and Purdue's. Screw up and become a millionaire. He only did it for money. Told reporters to dare not talk about his family and everything. Ran through him on ran through him on media. Yeah. Remember, Frosting players were so sick in practice because they practiced so hard. They probably threw up in practice because they didn't have good conditioning. Now looking back, Mario Verduzco was a joke. Oh yeah, he was absolute joke. Remember, he was supposed to be a QB wizard, bro. The dude looked nerdy enough to be some kind of weird QB wizard. Didn't have an athletic bone in his body, so I thought he was like a genius or something. But I don't even know what he did.
Do you remember? Do you remember the test he made all the quarterbacks do, their version of the Wonderlic? And he'd be like, man, McCaffrey, highest score on that test I've ever had, and that dude ended up being a shitty quarterback and a decent receiver.
The Wonderlic is the most useless test ever. The Wonderlic, however, I now that I took one, a few years back, didn't study for anything. I just took it to get into a physical therapy assistant school, but I didn't end up going. I got accepted because of it, but it said I was smart enough to be an engineer. So, listen, I think it's accurate, but doesn't apply to football at all. I'm only saying that because it said I was smart. It was after halftime. Yeah. They didn't play complimentary football. Was it out of halftime? I don't know why I thought it was straight out of halftime. They didn't play complimentary football. They didn't play any kind of good football. I just wanted the money, nothing else. Bonelet, I feel like you've said that 18 times in different words.
Yeah.
Horrible recruiter. Yes. He didn't recruit Raiola. Oh, he actually canceled the visit with Raiola and turned it into a Zoom meeting.
Because he was
drunk.
A little drunk.
Sauced, allegedly.
And then he committed to Ohio State 2 weeks later.
Yeah. So he was the reason he ruined that Raiola commitment to begin with. That's the reason. If he would have recruited him, putting effort into recruiting him, but how disrespectful is that? You set up a visit and last second you change it to a Zoom call and you're trying to get a 5-star quarterback. That's just disrespectful, bro.
While you're down the street from him, too.
Yeah, exactly. He's right there. Let this sink in. Mike Riley had a better record than Scott Frost at Nebraska. Not surprising. Yep. Thought of Peterson makes me sick to my stomach. Yeah. Peterson is a name that doesn't get mentioned enough. All Frost did was play the blame game. Glad Verduzco's back at Hogwarts. Those glasses definitely were Harry Potter-esque. Yep, sure did. I love it. It's all right, Bone Leg. Keep going. I think all right, so that's all the comments so far on this. Look how well Adrian did at KSU, Kansas State after he left. And yeah, look how good he's done since, you know. It was a stud, like in the AFL. Was a stud.
Yeah, he did pretty decent at K-State before he got benched because he kept getting hurt. That was his biggest downfall, man. That kid could not stay healthy. It sucked because he was such a unique talent.
Maybe if you know, Nebraska's strength and conditioning program was better, he wouldn't have got injured as much.
They sold us on this, like, man, Duval was the main guy behind Khalil Mack, and you're like, oh God, guy's a freak. And then you saw it, and you're like, man, that was one dude out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of players. So his success rate was very minimal.
Yeah, you gotta because some coaches are going to look out and just get a crazy athlete that no matter what is going to be good. Like there's just those freaks that become that. And usually what shows how good you are as a coach is if you bring in like a low rated guy and turn him into, a star in the NFL, like Matt Rule did with Jalen Petrie,
Yep.
Jalen Petrie went into Baylor as a nobody. And now he's one of the biggest pieces of the Texans defense, which is top three defense in the NFL. Was a second round pick, and was just like I said, when he was recruited, it was like nothing. Like I don't even think he was 3 stars. That is what really shows your chops as a coach.
He also, I believe Hassan Reddick was a walk-on like quarterback or tight end or something. And they converted him to that defensive end edge rusher, and then he turned into like a top 10, top 15 pick, has had a lengthy, highly successful NFL career. I mean, and Rule's career is riddled with the Jalen Petries and the Hassan Reddicks of the world.
Yes, exactly. There's actually stuff multiple players you can point to at each step that he kind of turned into, better than they would have been. This is a good question here. The other Dave asks, how much better would Adrian have been with our current coaching staff?
Wouldn't know how to read defense, that's for sure.
If it was the same team, like, and think about it this way, if like Scott Frost had not come in with that culture of the loser mentality. So let's say it was at the beginning of Mike Riley leaving. Let's say Matt Rule took that team over. This team would have been contenders by now. No doubt in my mind, just because you look at the difference in how they handle everything. Scott Frost,
they probably won another game or two last year too.
Yeah. And think about Scott Frost. He had zero plan. He tried to come in and do what he did at UCF, and he didn't change anything. He was still trying to recruit those same players in Florida. And when you switched teams, especially when you go from Florida at UCF to Nebraska in the Midwest, you got to change your recruiting up. You can't just sit here and be like, oh, this worked at UCF, it's going to work here. And that's where he sucks as a coach. And that's why I think he went back to UCF. I think he knows how to build a program like that, but that's it. I don't think he's adaptable at all.
And he won one big game. Realistic. Yeah. I mean, the Auburn one was big, like beating up on the AAC opponents.
Auburn didn't care because they wanted to be. They had just lost to, I think, Bama, and they were going to be in what was it? One of the
Peach Bowl, right?
Yeah, they were going to be in, but I think they were just how they lost that Alabama game. Like, I just don't think they were motivated for that game, and I think UCF was fired up like this was their national championship.
Yes,
I think they
quite literally was. But see, as fans and as media, what we'll do is we'll turn this into 12-0, coming off a big win versus Auburn. He's got I can't remember all the players, but like Mackenzie Milton was there. They had that really good running back. They had a lot of really good skill players. And you're like, man, look what they did at Auburn. Now, what are they going to do at Nebraska? And you just build this unrealistic expectation of what can happen. And then what happened was probably worst case scenario. And he was probably here a year too long. I mean, for me, it was pretty evident after 3-9 that this dude's not going to cut it, and you should have cut him loose then. And I think they tried to. They just didn't have the booster support to pay for it.
Exactly. Oh, can you back out? Come back in.
Mm-hmm.
Echo. Sorry about that. They're ranked hiring and recruiting. Hire who? Sean. Who? UCF. Didn't UCF self-proclaim the natty that season? Yes, they did. They had a full-blown. Let's see. There we go. They had a full-blown parade about it. Rings and everything.
It's on the stadium too.
They hung a banner. Did they put it on the stadium or they hang a banner?
Yes, it says 2013
I couldn't
national
remember.
record was.
Yeah, I couldn't remember which one they did. When in actuality, Alabama won that year, and so yeah, the whole thing was a clown. And like you said, I think they caught lightning in a bottle. And I think 2 years now we know for sure 2 years isn't enough to show that you're a good program builder. A program builder is somebody who's going to come in and sustain success, not somebody who's going to flip it overnight and get the hell out of Dodge. I think that right there should show that even UCF hiring him back is kind of risky.
That comment there about they are ranked higher in recruiting this year, is that about UCF?
That's what I asked him. I'm not sure if Sean, if you clarify that. Higher UCF.
Yeah, they have 15 commits right now. They have 1 4-star and a bunch of guys that are ranked in the 60s to over 140 at their position. So,
you're talking about this year's recruiting class against UCF? Well, you cannot look at that because they're going to go by number of recruits. And again, Nebraska's going to have a smaller class like this coming year than a lot of schools. So they're going to be ranked lower in recruiting because 24/7 factors up the number of recruits you have. Like the number, if you have 20, like Minnesota had 23 recruits last week or something like that 2 weeks ago, and they were top 10 in recruiting. Do you think Minnesota's a top 10 recruiting team, or they're going to? No, they had 23 players. Nebraska had like 8. So,
yep.
Seeing that they're higher than Nebraska means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, they have 1 4-star, and every other player is ranked either between 60 and 150 at their position. So, like, I could care less.
Yeah, no.
I'm pulling up Nebraska's too out of curiosity.
Pull it up. One question too for people in the chat. First off, y'all don't mind dropping a like on the video. Really, really helps us out. Secondly, I'm going to be doing some film reviews probably this week into next week. So if some of y'all have some guys that you want me to drop film reviews on, can you drop like the player or top 2 players, top 3, whatever, of who you want me to do a film review on next, so that way I kind of know what y'all want to see, and then I'll get those knocked out for y'all. So,
and for what it's worth, Nebraska's ranked higher than UCF at 62 per 247.
How many recruits we got?
We have technically 12 because Davon Bonwell-Woody hasn't decommitted yet, but he will eventually.
How many they got?
They have 15.
So they have more than us.
Davon Bonwell-Woody is our lowest rated recruit. He's ranked 140th overall at his position. And UCF has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players ranked 130th or worse or lower at their position. It's about quantity, not quality when it comes to rankings.
Facts. The rugby punter highlights. I mean, if I can find a bunch of highlights on them, I'll break that down.
Those are going to be hard to come by for a reason. Yeah. There's a reason why Nebraska did not announce him until he was on campus.
That's the hard part, is getting film. There are ways, but you gotta reach out to people to find them. So let me see if I can get my hands on that. I've never broke down punter film. That'll be new. I broke down hundreds and hundreds of films on everybody else, but punter film would be a new one for me.
And a left-footed, right-footed punter.
Yeah, I don't even know how to break that down.
It's unique. It'll be a first.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else on the Scott Frost situation?
No.
Okay.
We spent 30 minutes on it. We're good.
Yep. Just needed to air it all out there, Any updates on recruiting long snappers? All right. Well, that snap was good on that one. Snap was good on that one as well. That's literally my film breakdown. Good snap there.
Took 2.1 seconds to get. It's a little long.
Yeah. Lifted his head too early. I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to break that down either. Long snapper film.
Calvin Thomas is likely, I put my crystal ball in him, but it appears UNC has come with a pretty big offer.
Yep.
SMU as well. So, of course, Nebraska, as we've talked about, they do not overspend. And if essentially a company, a school is willing to overpay for a recruit, Nebraska will gladly let them do that. Nebraska is pursuing, I'm looking at it on my phone here. I'm going to do my best to say this here. Vilami Moala, a defensive tackle that is decommitted from Oregon. They are pursuing him. And I think that's because they're anticipating Valden Sone to commit to Georgia, despite what other content creators and other people have tried to say that Nebraska is the favorite. They're not. Let's make that clear. And then I would expect Nebraska to reevaluate the jack linebacker position as well as defensive tackle over the next 2 or 3 months. Their goal is going to be to flip somebody because they're not going to reach on a player that is not at the top of their board. So I'm not going to name any names, but if there's a lower end defensive tackle that they're borderline on, they will try and flip a higher ranked guy before they even consider getting a commitment from a guy that's lower on their board.
Exactly. That has killed us in years past. Maybe some film on that long snapper. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I could do a special teams film. I could break down the entirety of the special teams. With punter, like really the biggest things you look for is like their composure when, how they react when they're clamping down on them, how they're going to go about, let's say punting to the right side of the field versus the wrong side. We've seen that versus Michigan State. Just the different, their athleticism, how they move. There's not a whole lot to break down, but I could break down some special team stuff, but it would be more so the entirety of the special teams. Never forget Chin saying after the game, there's no reasonable reason we played that bad. No, that was Bob
Diaco.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh, that guy was a disaster. But man, good looking guy. Let's be clear here. Okay. I'm comfortable enough with myself to say he's a good looking dude.
I don't think so, man. He had rosacea. He had them red cheeks.
He did. Do you remember he used to tuck his t-shirt into his sweatpants?
Yeah, bro.
That was a little weird.
That guy had the highest energy to really have the lowest energy defense ever. Like you would think like that defense would be like energized and fired up with his energy. It felt like they were like we don't like this guy. Like what's wrong with him?
We're going to give up 800 yards a game and 50 points so we don't have to deal with Bob Diaco.
Exactly. What's going on, Rashawn? Appreciate you hopping in here. Again, I'll be having Rashawn on the show before too long. I'm just trying to figure out kind of a week where I can get a video done with him, kind of break down Makai. We talked about Makai a little bit last weekend too, but somebody I want to spotlight for y'all. So we'll get him on the show to talk about him a little bit and give us some insight on how everything's going and what he brings as a player. So excited about that. Appreciate you hopping in, Rashawn. Do you guys see the Jones brother transferring from us to Iowa to play with his bro? Nah, I think this has become a little fun thing for them.
They grew up Iowa fans.
Exactly. Yeah, I think this has kind of become a fun thing for them. Like the house divided with the flag split. They did that.
It's going to be brutal to have to travel back and forth between Iowa City for games, though. I imagine like mom will go one way, dad will go another, and then the next week you switch it.
Yeah.
And then Black Friday is going to be crazy in that family. Who do you root for? Seriously.
I don't know. But I think if they're Iowa fans, you got a son in Iowa, I feel like they're going to be rooting for Iowa, but like it's going to be a lot easier to deal with the loss,
Okay. This is like, I've never had a family member that played at Iowa, but I had a a close friend that was a teammate of mine that played linebacker at Iowa. His name was Cole Fisher. And his senior year, he finally got to start at linebacker for Iowa, and he had a pick 6 against Nebraska. I believe it was pick 6, or it was a game-sealing interception. And like when I realized it was him, I was like, oh, like let's go, like great play. I'm happy for my friend, but like as a fan, I'm like, damn, that sucks. So it was a very conflicting thing for me. I can't imagine mom and dad right now.
Was that the game where it was like 4th down and we were almost in field goal range? And
yeah, it was I think he intercepted it probably around the midfield.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a low throw, trying to get the first down, and he picked it up. Might have been 3rd down, but might have been 4th. But yeah, picked it off to end it.
And his brother was Sean Fisher.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and their dad and uncle both played at Nebraska. Cole never got offered by Nebraska.
Dang. Love any film reviews. Appreciate that, man. Let's see. Do you think Bobby Boucher could come play for Nebraska? Just look at what he did to that Hawkeye defense. Killed him. Yeah,
Bobby Boucher.
Bring him down,
he's
man.
The GOAT. He's the GOAT.
As long as Uncle Rico comes with him. Throw that ball over those mountains right there. Oh, yeah, Diaco. Yeah, ham sandwich, Bob Disco, Diaco. Listen, Don't Let Cornfed's on a roll tonight, dude. Bringing the jokes. I love it. Sorry, any more recruiting updates?
No, I was going to say to Rashawn, I got the NCAA game, and I have formation subs where I have Makai getting snaps because I'm excited to play with him. But the way they did their depth chart on the game is there's like 3 guys all in the same area. So I'm like, I'm doing formation subs. So I'm playing with every running back at some point during the game. I can't wait. I'm playing tonight after we get off here.
Must be nice. I can't play the game because I have a PC and a console. Another thing too, I wanted to mention this because they Unnecessary Roughness posted a quote from Scott Satterfield on the Bearcats. And I mean, I know every coach is supposed to say this, but he said this is the best team they've had since he's been there top to bottom.
100%.
I can agree with that. But at the same time, their win total over under 7.5, and they play in the Big 12, right? And so again, we can't take them lightly at all. We can't take anybody lightly. I understand that, but still, it remains to feel good about week 1 beating that team by 10 plus. I think is necessary.
I think because they've got some really good talent through the portal this offseason. And some key guys at positions of need. They got a really solid defensive tackle, I believe, through the portal. That he's a mammoth of a human, and it's going to be a big test for Justin Evans and Rocco Spindler and Henry Letofsky. I'm assuming he'll be our left guard. It's going to be a big challenge for those 3. Their D tackle's like 330, 340. He's a mountain of a man. They've got a pretty solid edge rusher. Their quarterback is probably a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick. Solid receiver play. It's just some of those guys. High recruiting rankings, right? Haven't put it together on the field. And that's my concern. Is if they can do that, it could surprise Nebraska. I don't want people sleeping on them. It's a damn good team. It's a Power 4 team. But again, like you said, Big 12, competition's pretty poor. I mean, Nebraska just absolutely smoked Colorado. I mean, if we had a competent offense in the second half, we beat them by 40. Mm-hmm. And we also had that one drive for like 150 yards in penalty that got called back. And Colorado almost won the Big 12.
Yeah.
So there is, a comparison and contrast where Nebraska should come out on top, but do not sleep on them, especially game 1.
Yep. And, from what I've been like hearing, because I try to listen in on some of their stuff and try to read up on some of their stuff. But, they've been kind of outing the offense, the off-season workouts, like the culture changes, the momentum, that they have, and so they're feeling really good about this season. At the same time, I think they're expecting about 8 wins from what I'm seeing. So we'll see, but they've had high standards, and Scott hasn't really kind of met those expectations. I think it's a make or break here for him, where he's going to have a winning record, or he's out. It's year 3 for him as well, so it'll be interesting.
I was looking up just now his record, because if his overall as a coach, which I mean is a very simplistic way to look at it. Obviously, when he was at Appalachian State, highly successful, but at Louisville, it was not. I mean, I remember when Cincinnati hired him, and I thought it was kind of an odd hiring because he started off hot. Louisville went 8-5, and then he went 4-7, 6-7, 7-5, and then 3-9 at Cincinnati and 5-7. A career winning percentage just over 580. So he's not a great coach, is what I'm getting at, essentially. Yeah. I mean, the bulk of his winning came at Appalachian State in the FCS.
So absolutely, he's the best team he's had since he's been there, but not saying a ton, you know. And again, like 7.5 over/under win total projection in the Big 12. I understand that we got to say like, oh, we can't overlook anybody, but if we're a team that's going to be, you know, competing for national titles, we have to start coming into these games like we used to as Nebraska fans and be like, oh, it's gonna be an easy game. We're gonna like. I get we're scorned and all that, like, but us overlooking teams as fans is not going to make us lose to them, you know?
Oh yeah, no.
So like we should have the expectation that we're going to beat them by double digits. That's why I maintain that no matter what anybody says. I'm like, yes, they're a solid team, but Nebraska should beat them by multiple scores. And that has to start happening, you know? And that's why this is an important game. And so it's not going to be good enough to just sneak by. And I don't think they will. I think this team is the way this team is constructed right now, and the momentum they got, and the locker room the way it is, and the cohesiveness and strength and conditioning, all that stuff. Like, I think they're going to come out and I think they're going to put a good performance out there, and I think they're going to put people on notice for sure.
Part of it too is the mindset, and it starts with the team as players, right? Where I'm going to come in and we're going to win. That should be your expectation. That should be your standard. And I remember Damon Benning on the radio saying when he did his pregame walk with Coach Rule against Colorado, Coach Rule's like, we're going to beat their ass. You have to have that mindset.
Yep, exactly. And I think that was part of the problem before is like, I feel like there was this anxiety of, you know, we had been losing so much under, you know, Frost's tenure that there was this anxiety coming into the game, like of uncertainty. Like they didn't come in confident they were going to beat the crap out of the team that they should beat the crap out of. It's like they came in like almost like, you know, they talk about no fear of failure, but there was a 100% fear of failure. That's all, you know, they always said no fear of failure. I think that was what Chins said that all the time too. But I think that was kind of the motto. That was kind of the motto of the team, but all it was fear of failure. That's why they kept failing, you know? And for us as fans, now we got that fear of failure, but we got to also just be like, listen, if we're as confident in this team as we say, if this is 8 or 9 win team, we're going to win that game, you know? So let's go. Should have wore that for the interview.
That would have been hilarious. I have to blur my background all the time because they're like, oh, you're a Nebraska fan. And I'm like, yeah, fuck Texas.
Hey, oh yeah, the Longhorns, not the State. I'm going to KC for the game.
Yeah.
So excited. Yeah, I wish I was going to be able to go, man.
Look, if any of you guys are going to be in Kansas City for the game and I'm still here, well, 100% I'll post something on the YouTube channel where we can all like just tailgate together or whatever. It'll be fun.
So sad that I'm not going to be able to make the Michigan game. I heard that around 80% of the stadium in KC are Husker fans. 60. Oh yeah. I heard like a
little weird fact.
What's that?
Kansas City is the largest city in the U.S. outside of Nebraska with Nebraska graduates and people who moved out of Nebraska. So there's like, I'm telling you, there's literally Nebraska fans everywhere. There's probably 10 of them on my street.
I like Arizona might have something to say about that because there's
a lot in Arizona.
Bunch of us out here, like Corn Craze Connor. He just moved out here. You got Minnie from Corn Nation out here. Like they're both right up the road from me. So we might get together and do I'll do a show. By the way, you're not invited, Brian, because you're way over there.
Yeah.
No, but
I'll drive from Texas. It'll take me 2 days.
Yeah, there's a huge contingent of Husker fans. Like there was 9 Husker bars. They have a whole alumni group here called Huskers in Arizona. There was 9 pre-COVID. There was 9 Husker bars. I think there's 6 now, 6 or 7. And Every single game, they rotate the watch parties. Every single game, it's fully packed, fully reserved for Nebraska fans, and it's packed. You got to get there an hour and a half before the game starts just to watch it at these places. Yeah, it's crazy how many fans are out here. I didn't realize it until I moved. I just hope if we beat Meat Chicken that they don't get big heads and drop a game we shouldn't.
That's where Coach Rule comes in.
Yeah, you should have wore those that Husker suit that they sell at Husker Hounds.
Is that the one from John from Coordination wears sometimes?
I think so. I think doesn't somebody from
my collar's all messed up.
Big Red Junkies do it?
I can't remember, but I know exactly what suit.
There's your wifey.
Mm-hmm.
Kauffman Stadium is doing Husker night the night after the game.
Yeah, the Royals play. They're doing Husker night at the K, which usually you get a hat with like a Royals hat with like a Nebraska logo. They're doing something different this year, though.
By the way, I know you don't care, but shout out to my Astros. Look at my dog peeking his head in the door. Dad. Astros beat the Dodgers 29-6, the 3-game series in LA.
Now, that was insane.
Without their two best players, without Jordan, without Jeremy Pena, 15 players in the IL, which is the most in baseball, beat them 29-6.
Yeah, when you accidentally texted me instead of somebody else, I was like, "There's no way." So I had to like get on Twitter real quick, and I was like, "Holy crap!"
Yeah, we just played the Phillies, Cubs, and Dodgers, and went 8-1. All 3 division leaders in the National League went 8-1. It was kind of crazy. This team has been fun because I haven't been expecting them to win, and they've just been winning. Windbreaker, I've heard. What happened?
I'll say, yeah, it's a windbreaker. That's what I remember now.
Oh yeah. All right.
Was it last week? Somebody was asking about potentially a concert before or after the Michigan game.
Oh yeah. I forget who asked. Was it the Michigan? Yeah, was it the Michigan game actually?
Yeah, I think it was either like the weekend after or something. Maybe Nebraska's on a bye week or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I heard Sean Callahan say that it might be Jelly Roll and like Post Malone or Morgan Wallen, like some big time artists.
Dude, if it's Morgan Wallen, that'll be packed.
You're gonna need to come.
And expensive.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Post Malone would sell a lot too, just because he's a big name. But Morgan Wallen's like, it's good luck getting a ticket to his stuff for a reasonable price.
Oh yeah.
Was it Pitt that asked? It might be. Where is Pitt, by the way?
Damn,
bro named the show and left. Crazy. All right. Any more comments y'all want to drop about maybe who? Let's see. Jelly Roll and Post Malone are doing stadium tours. Interesting.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. So, anyways, if y'all want to drop before we wrap the show here, if y'all want to drop anybody you want the film review on, and or if you want to comment on this video after it goes live, comment the people you may want to film review on coming up. And like I said, I'm gonna be going through a lot of them here coming up in the next few weeks. So I just want to see who y'all want to see, and some of them will be members only, but some of them will also be for everybody. So y'all stay tuned for that. Brian, is there anything else that you got upcoming that you want to put out before we sign off here?
No, I'm good. I'm just if you guys know anyone in Austin area hiring, let me know. I'm still interviewing until I get a job.
Yep. And I was thinking about, I want to clear this first because I don't want to ask for money, but I was also thinking about potentially doing a stream or, on next Tuesday live stream or something where, donations, we offer up the super chats, but where the donations, I want to kind of put that towards some of the flood relief in Texas too, like donate the money, like all the proceeds will go towards that when I'll confirm that it was sent over. But I think something like that would be interesting because the death tolls up to 109, 161 people are missing, like just an absurd thing. And the way it happened was because what people don't understand is, everybody's blaming politics, but that's built the way that's in the hill country of Texas. Right. And that literally raised from,
it raised like 27 feet.
It raised from like 4 feet. It went from 4 to 34 feet in an hour and a half. And it's because it's through the hill country. And the thing is, all that rain came in, and it's a narrow river. So it just kind of pushes all the water through, and it goes through what they call a floodplain. And it's not soil, so it can't absorb it. It's like limestone.
That's what limestone.
Yeah. And this is just an unreal like event that is like 1 in a million type of deal because of how it worked, and all the camps there with all the kids and stuff.
The storm, if you've seen the radar of it, it was basically a land hurricane that was stationary over this, what do they call it? The Guadalupe River.
Yeah.
For 12 plus hours.
It sat still. It literally sat still. It was remnants of I believe a hurricane, and it just sat still over it and just dumped rain. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. So I just kind of wanted to, there was like 23 people there from my hometown. So hearing the stories and seeing, posts from some of the parents about like losing, families and stuff like that, it's heartbreaking. So, if everybody's cool with that, I'd like to do something like that to raise some money and kind of donate it. And I'm also going to match whatever we raise. I'm going to match that donation, and also donate that as well. So if y'all are interested in that, I might try to do that next Tuesday on the live stream. So yeah, awesome. Let's see. What if wearing burnt orange is a requirement of the job?
I don't know. I applied for a job at UT, so we'll see. I don't care.
Be working with Matthew McConaughey. Brain, what type of work you looking for? Where's Pinky, bro? Am I Pinky in your brain?
I would say if I had to give a very simplistic thing, it'd be any type of order fulfillment, management, supervisory role, logistics, warehouse distribution is primarily what I do. So anything in management in distribution centers, that's what I do.
So you'll help a brother out. Cool. All right.
But you got to give me a fair offer, okay? Can't come in 15 plus K less like the last company.
Don't lowball my guy, bro. He's got value. You see that suit?
This is my wedding suit. Okay. Custom tailored.
This guy's been listening to Andrew Tate. He's high value. Now, if you listen to Andrew Tate, you're not high value.
I just need to shave my head next, and then I'll be good.
Yeah. Just turn into a douche and shave your head, and you'll be a top G.
Like cook and clean.
Yeah, you'll be a top G like Andrew Tate.
Fact. So yeah.
All right. That'll do it for us here today. Appreciate everybody hopping in the chat and talking some Scott Frost with us, along with some other stuff. So Thursday we'll be doing our call-in show at 5 o'clock. Well, 5 o'clock my time, 7 o'clock Central. So again, y'all stay tuned for that. Again, if you want to let me know what film reviews you want to drop or whatever, drop them in the comments of this video or any video. Let me know, and I'll get those pumped out for y'all. So, Brian, nothing else?
Nothing else. We'll see y'all later.
All right. Well, everybody have a good one. Hope everybody enjoyed their 4th of July, and we will see you in the next video. Peace.